to the Movieception Show. I am Fariba, and we're just about to watch the penultimate episode of House of the Dragon, which is insane because we've been through this whole journey in these last 8 to 9 weeks, and I don't think anyone anticipated how great this show is going to be, at least in terms of storytelling. Like, when we look at Game of Thrones, right? Game of Thrones is like anything could happen, right? Every episode we watch, like, anything could happen, and there could be any bombshell, there could be like anything that just came unexpectedly, and that's what made Game of Thrones so great, is that it's like a storytelling that we have no idea where it was gonna go, and that was kind of where the shock factor is. At least with this show, it's like we kind of already know what's going to happen because it is a prequel to Game of Thrones. But what makes this show so great is actually the performances themselves. I mean, you really have some of these world-class actors just like given the performance of their lifetime, and we've seen, like, even from like last episode, we really saw how they're really putting all their energy into like really showing just the characterization of these characters and just showing who they are and presenting themselves in the most brilliant way possible, whether it's the things that we hate about them, the things that we dislike about them, or the things that we do like about them, or things that, you know, are kind of in the gray area. But yeah, knowing that we're in the penultimate episode, and considering that we did end up with basically King Viserys now dead, we're now about in that point of the show where they're really going to start kind of this whole Targaryen war within the family, and just see how things transpire from there, especially because we're going to start seeing more of the green versus black feud that's going to start building up from here on out. And we even saw just kind of how basically the whole point of the show is that they're fighting because of misunderstanding at this point. And I mean, I don't know, maybe Alicent did that on purpose or whatnot. A lot of people think that she was going to find an excuse regardless, but regardless, right? I'm just super excited to see what's going to happen and how they're going to try and wrap up the show, especially for the first season before, you know, we go into a hiatus after that. So without further ado, let's watch the 9th episode of House of the Dragon. Oh my god. It's quiet and sad. Or is that a squire? I'm so confused.
You sure? This how nice, Grace? Stay here. Tell no one. Help me, Jackson. He told me he wished for Aegon to be king.
That's not what he really said, but okay.
It is the truth.
That is not the truth.
Uttered with his own lips.
Not really.
His last words to me, and I was the only one to hear it. And now he's dead.
He's dead.
The king is dead. With his last breath, he impressed upon the queen his final wish that his son, Aegon, should succeed him as Lord of the Seven Kingdoms.
You really gonna take her word for it?
Then we may proceed now with the full assurance of his blessing on our long-laid plans.
Isn't that a Lannister?
Yes, there is much to be done, as we've previously discussed. Now, there are two among the captains of the city.
I love how quick Otto wins. I love how quick he wins. Oh my god.
The treasury is well in hand.
I understand that members of the small council have been planning secretly to install my son without me.
My queen.
Even she knew.
There was no need to sign.
Even she's shocked.
I will not have this. To hear that you're
20 years ago, most of them now dead.
You heard the Lord Hand.
I like that guy
The king
who's
changed his
defending Rhaenyra.
I am 76 years old. I have known Viserys longer than any
who sit at this table. And I will not
Preach,
believe
preach.
he said this on his deathbed, alone with only the boy's mother as a witness. This is seizure.
Oh,
This is theft. It
oh.
is treason. At the
Speak,
least. It is
speak.
tongue, Lyman. The king was well last night. That he died of his own accord.
Which of us are you accusing of regicide, Lord Beesbury?
Whether it was one of you or all of you, I care not. I will have no part.
Kristen is a murderer. Western, come on.
Frodo. The door remains shut until we finish our business.
Wow, Otto, you scheming, conniving asshole.
Must be allowed to remain free and draw support to her claim.
You mean to imprison her?
She and her family will be given the opportunity to publicly swear obeisance to the new king.
She'll never bend the knee. Nor will Damon, which you know. You plan to kill them.
Yeah, sure.
And all here accede to this.
But a sacrifice we must
I
make
love
to
how
secure
Western's like,
Aegon's
what is wrong
succession.
with
And
you
then there is
a-holes?
Damon to consider. The king
I like
wouldn't
him
wish for
already.
any of
But
the
the king did not
favouring-
wish for the murder of his daughter.
But Otto
He
wants
loved her.
it.
I will not have you deny this.
I mean,
One more word and I will have you removed from this chamber and sent to
okay,
the wall.
Alicent. I feel you a little bit here. For once, you're actually being common sense to this whole group, huh? Aha! He's like, I'm not gonna be involved in this crap. You guys literally were thinking about killing her.
Commander of the King's Guard. I recognize no authority but the King's. And until there is one, I have no place here.
Westerling, you just became one of my favorites. Screw you, Kristen.
It is our fate, I think.
Including the Queen. My lord. Bring him to me and me alone, Sir Eric.
I'm getting Tywin Lannister out of him.
What is the meaning of this? God.
They're imprisoning even the staff members? Oh my god, you can't be any more sketchier than this. This is like every plotting and scheming that you could ever do.
To be found within the castle walls, Your Grace.
I will not fail you.
I'll come with you.
That would not be my desire, Aemond. If anything is
Aegon brought me to the Street of Silk on my 13th name day. It was his duty as my brother, he said, to ensure I was as educated as he was.
Damon is pulling a Damon.
At least that's what I understood him to mean.
Banners to Rhaenyra, you must now pledge them to the future king.
You little piece of shit.
I will not bend the knee.
keeps its sworn oath to the princess.
Very well.
Oh, you piece of shit. 7 hells on you, Otto. 7 hells on you.
Long live the king.
Power hungry asshole. Man, I'm just boiling. Oh, I'm boiling in annoyance, frustration, anger. Otto, you conniving asshole. Jeez.
How old are they? About 10 years, I should say. They have them grow the nails and file the teeth. Makes them more formidable. Prince Aegon spends many a night in this place.
You see now what he is. You've not seen anything.
The younger brother who studies history and philosophy, it is I who trains with the sword, who rides the largest dragon in the world. It is I who should be...
Oh. Speaking like Damon, I
know what
see.
it is to toil for what others have freely given. Mine to the throne. Should they come looking for me, I intend to be found. Sworn duty, Alec, is for the hand to find wisdom.
Oh my god, they're
sworn
arguing.
oath of service until death.
A moment of your time, my lords.
You'll find no
Brothers are
bias in
fighting on who they want to side with. This is interesting.
I can take you to Prince Aegon. She'll trust this to the hand of the king only.
Impossible.
I think he will wish to hear what the White One can tell him.
Interesting. Oh, come on.
Let the king's justice take him.
Oh, I hate you, Otto. What a passion. You're going to hell.
You did well, Orla.
I know my duty.
I actually sympathize with her. You gotta say, I mean, she may be a hypocritical queen, but she actually had feelings. She actually cared for him. Just like in the books.
And you are usurping the throne. It was my husband's dying wish. Believe it or no.
Call it out,
There's no
Rhaenys.
consequence.
Call her out.
Aegon will be king. I came here to ask your support. No, but dear cousin,
She isn't your cousin, though.
more than any soul alive, understand what I say now. Mrs. Rhaenys, I loved my husband, but I will speak the truth we both know. You should have been queen. I let violence and sure destruction and instead toward peace.
There's so much hypocrisy
in
in her
peace
words,
that you
though.
imprison me. And push of my dragon. If we are overmatched, Rhaenyra will be tempted to strike us and war will ensue.
I mean, you're kind of already declaring
Without your
war,
dragon,
so...
she may be persuaded to negotiate. If it's Driftmark you want, you should have it. For you and your granddaughters
There's
to
so
pass on
much
as you see fit.
hypocrisy from her statements.
You toil still in service to men.
Oh!
Father, your husband, your son.
She called you
Desire
out.
not to be free, but to make a window in the wall of your prison. And you have imagined yourself on the Iron Throne.
She calling you
I'll
out.
leave you with your thoughts.
She called you
Ring the
out.
bell when you have an answer.
I love Rhaenys, man. I mean, regardless of who she sides as of this point, you gotta give credit to her. She's smart, just like Olenna Tyrell.
My condolences on the passing of your king. They are forced to fight and worse. You gold cloaks take the bribes given them to look away. An obscenity. Either tolerated
She's
or
like
ignored
Varys.
by the crown.
I look into it. You have my word.
Look into it. He ain't gonna do shit. He ain't gonna do it. He's not gonna do anything.
When your blood's ripen and you install your grandson.
Why have you paid it? I want my mother. Your grandfather hand will meet you.
Oh, he's really having second thoughts, isn't it? Okay.
I do regret this.
I love how you're just watching there. It's not helping his brother at all.
Let me go! Where's your brother, huh?
Oh.
Let me go! Brother! The rule! No taste for duty! I'm not suited!
If he doesn't want it, I mean, just give it to Rhaenyra.
Let me
He
go.
doesn't even want it.
Find a ship and sail away, never to be found.
The Queen awaits.
Hmm.
Wait.
None of this is a game.
Oh, I love how they're pitting against each other too, huh? I love this game. I love it.
Prize a pouch of silver. We've relied on one another these many years, and now it is the good of the family that we both desire. Whatever our differences, our hearts remain as one.
Our hearts were never one. I see that now. Rather, I've been a piece that you moved about the board.
If that is true, then I made you Queen of the Seven Kingdoms. Would you have desired it otherwise?
How could I know? I wanted whatever you impressed upon me to want. And now the debt comes to you. We'll proceed now as I see fit.
You gotta give her props. She's standing up to her own dad and
We'll
calling the
send terms
shots.
to Rhaenyra on Dragonstone. True terms, such that she may accept without shame.
Is she
His mercy be shown to his daughter.
your husband? Or you, his daughter's childhood companion?
Kristen Cole will be named Lord Commander of
You gotta give props to Alicent for standing up to her dad and, you know, realizing what he's actually done to her and used her basically.
As you
So.
wish.
There is a web of spies at work in the Red Keep. Along its threads travels news of all.
Oh. Okay.
One of the little must be taken out at the head.
Okay.
When the queen dies, the bees fly without purpose.
Oh, that's gonna be such a great
They need
idea,
only
right?
to turn a phrase, Your Grace.
I assume this task falls within your expertise.
If you wish it,
So she's an accomplice.
it will be done.
No, Alicent. Everyone looks miserable, huh?
With me, Princess. I can not let this treachery stand.
I knew it. I think we know which brother is going to be siding with Rhaenyra, I see.
I won't leave my lease. If I could get to the dragon pit, then...
No, they'll expect you there, Princess. You won't get past the gates. No, come.
We must make for the riverfront and
Oh,
find a
she
ship
was thinking about her
before they know
dragon.
you've gone.
Steadfastly he upheld Rhaenyra's claim.
Change his mind.
No. He could have, but he never did. Because he didn't like me.
He's right.
And yet, with his final breath, he whispered to me that you should take his place at the throne.
No. Call your mother out. Call your mother out. Do it.
Why with me with her?
I speak the truth.
Really? Oh. He's not gonna think that he was destined to this. Oh, what a screw up that Viserys has done.
Listen to me, Egon. Your grandfather, the Hound, will try to impress on me that Rhaenyra should be put to the sword.
He whispered his final wish that his firstborn son, Aegon, should succeed him. To lead us.
And I can't wait to see Rhaenyra's reaction to this. Should have been Rhaenyra.
Let the seven bear witness. Aegon Targaryen is the true heir to the Iron Throne.
Go screw off, Kristen. Yeah, they're only gonna accept him because he's a dude. He's a man. If it was Rhaenyra, they'd be like, ooh, girl. Well, this seems like a confidence booster for him. What in the world? In the world? What is going? What is going on? Rhaenys, my bad bitch! Oh! Take your dragon. Oh, what a way, Rhaenys. What a way. Oh. Get away. Just get away. Oh. Nice one, Rhaenys. Alright. This was the 9th episode of House of the Dragon, and it did not disappoint. I mean, my blood was boiling. I was in shock. I'm just kind of like amazed with everything that just happened here. So, I mean, first off, let me just talk about Alicent for a second, right? Like, I know that throughout this whole show, there has been, you know, a lot of people hate her. Even I've been, you know, I really dislike her as a character because of her hypocrisy and just the way that she's so antagonistic against Rhaenyra and just not, realizing her own hypocrisy in terms of like how she's trying to, deal with the whole realm situation. But I think here we really see kind of a different side to Alicent, where she's definitely a lot more sympathetic, where we kind of see kind of her true feelings about everything that's, gone out. She did care for Viserys, even though maybe she didn't love him, but she did care for him. We saw bits of that. And we're kind of seeing how she's trying to do her best not to mitigate, she's trying to mitigate the situation as much as possible, right? Not without going through so much bloodshed and all of that sort of thing, right? And trying to, uphold much of what Viserys wanted. And I gotta say, like, I appreciate the fact that she even stood up against her own dad, knowing, or like, finally realizing that he did use her as a pawn to kind of put their names and try to straighten their house in some way or some form, right? And she kind of called him out for it. And I guess you can say that you can appreciate her for kind of trying to take things into her own hands, like she got back her own power, which it's really interesting because of the fact that, again, she has been definitely a very interesting character. Again, I think with this is like I appreciate how they always show this black and whiteness with every character, and we've seen that with Alicent even before this episode. But I think in this episode in particular, we really see that sort of that grayness of her. Like, yes, she's a hypocrite. Yes, some of the decisions that she's made haven't been great, but you also have to appreciate her for being a good mother and also kind of realizing that men have been using her. She's finally noticed that men have been using her, and yet now she's trying to take back control of her own, which is trying to make sure that her son, because she's under the impression that what Viserys told her was their son, even though it's very clear there was a misunderstanding. But she's doing what she thought is basically the best of the intentions of not just, what she thought is Viserys saying, but even for her family. One other thing you have to also appreciate with the way they just characterized Alicent is that before we did see a part of Alicent where she literally has no forgiveness for Rhaenyra, where she really did, had this bad side of like how she thinks of Rhaenyra. She didn't think of anything positive about her. She always had her doubts about her, especially because she always thought of her as someone who wasn't performing her duties and always, took advantage of her privilege. But here it's like because of what happened in the last episode, where she did made up things with Rhaenyra, that like things had changed for her, especially with how she thinks of her in a sense, right? Where she's thinking about her as like a friend. Even Otto called her out for it, saying, well, are you thinking about it as like Viserys' wishes, or are you thinking about it as somebody who used to be her friend? And I think that the fact that he made that comment, it's like, well, now she's really thinking about the whole sense of, okay, her friendship is going to be jeopardized, but she's also thinking about it in a sense where like she does care for Rhaenyra, which is really odd when you think about it, because it's like, well, every time we've seen, Alicent, she's always, had a grudge about her. She's been hostile in a sense. She never really liked her. Like, we really saw that. And then, of course, now we're seeing a bit more of her, where it's like, well, she really cares for her. She doesn't want her to be hurt. She was literally the reason why that, Otto wasn't able to kill her off at an instant, right? So, we're really seeing this whole complexity, like just seeing the complexity of her characterizations. Like, yeah, she is probably one of the more dislikable characters in this show, but we're also gotta appreciate the way that, well, she doesn't want to take advantage of, the crown for the sake of the crown, but she's just doing what she wants to do is right, but also kind of, not trying to hurt anyone in the process. And I think you have to appreciate Alicent for that. And again, we're seeing here where it's like she feels a bit conflicted about everything, but in a sense she still wants to protect her friend without any bloodshed, right? Yes, there's still some hypocrisy. Yes, she's still not a likable character, and yes, like there's a sense of her where she's like, okay, well, there's still some, she hasn't really redeemed herself, but in a sense she has shown a bit more of a better side to her that we can at least appreciate from her. And just seeing here that, well, she wants to, defend Rhaenyra and not defend Rhaenyra, but she wants to in some ways protect her without, hurting anyone in the process. And again, like the fact that she still cares for her. I think that's the biggest part of this whole series, and of like, okay, this is the Alicent that we're gonna see, where she is not that hostile version that we saw before. now we're seeing a version of Alicent where she's not that hostile version who had this grudge for Rhaenyra, right? She wants to do the right thing, and I think that kind of shows a bit more of this complexity of who Alicent is as a character. And again, you gotta appreciate the way that the writers and the showrunners really just portrayed her on the screen, and just showing her as like somebody who's a lot more complex, has this grayness, is not technically speaking the antagonist in a sense where she's a full-fledged villain or anything like that. She's just somebody who's trying to do the right thing in some way, in some form, and trying to execute everything from there, right? So again, this is an episode that we really see kind of Alicent really, really stand out and shine in the best way possible, or in the worst way, either case. And also just kind of seeing how, in some cases, she's still vulnerable. Even though she's trying to be 2 steps forward, because she's now playing her own games, right? She's understood kind of everything that's happened and how she's been taken advantage of and everything like that, right? Even with all that being the case, she's still very vulnerable because, well, again, she is a woman in, King's Landing, and people are still kind of using her in some cases, like we saw with Larys, which was really, really creepy and just, But you gotta keep empathizing with her in some sense. Like, even for someone like me who really detests Alicent, right? Like, I even was feeling a bit sorry for her in some sense, where it's like, okay, well, yeah, she's doing better. She's finally getting the gist of things, and she's trying to, like, in a sense, we do see a Sansa Stark out of her. Like, she is a Sansa Stark, where, yes, they were once naive young girls who, didn't know what to do, but then as they grew up and started to understand the world, they kind of became a bit more of a powerful player in a sense. And yes, Sansa was, definitely a bit more of a hero in a sense, where Alicent's more kind of in a borderline antagonist. But even then, we kind of see how we see this grayness. And in any case, Alicent's no different from Sansa, where she's just doing what she thinks is right. Yeah, she isn't as brutal and ruthless in some of the decision making as Sansa was, where Sansa was like no BS. But Alicent, at least in a sense, where we still see kind of not just her shrewdness, intelligence, but kind of seeing a bit more still of just her caring nature that she is as a mother, who's doing everything she can to trying to keep things from becoming too escalated where anyone would get killed, right? Which, of course, if you read the books, things turn out the way things do. Now, let's go into kind of the whole situation, right? So, Otto, clearly he is an asshole. He is literally the Viserys and the Tywin, probably in the worst sense of it, because from what we got immediately from this episode is that Otto, regardless, whether or not had Viserys, and let's be here clear, whether or not Viserys had made that misunderstanding with Alicent, right? It was clear from the beginning that they were going to usurp Rhaenyra every which way possible. It was very clear about that. Even you can see from Alicent's reaction that, like, she didn't even know that they were gonna plan to, overthrow what Viserys' wishes were, and they were always intending to put Aegon or Aemon as the heir, because you can tell there was a sense of where they really didn't want Aegon, but yeah, we saw that, right? They always had intentions that they weren't going to put him, that they weren't going to put Rhaenyra up in the Iron Throne. They were going to put Aegon. So you can see how conniving a-hole that Otto is. And I think this is probably where we really see him kind of just in his own form, where he really just shows who he truly is, right? We kind of see him in previous episodes. We see him kind of sneaking in the background, just kind of like doing his own planning, just like any other, anybody who's just trying to, in a sense of trying to be advantageous in their own way and trying to scheme through all of it, right? And here we kind of see him at his peak, where he's doing everything he can, or not everything he can, but he's using basically all of his skill sets to kind of just try to make his own plan work, right? And that is to, have his own bloodline in a sense, his own family in a sense, that they're going to be the ones carrying on the Iron Throne and the power that comes with it, right? So, again, we really see Otto kind of just really showing this true self in the way that we've never seen him before. That's really interesting that we're seeing here. And yeah, I think one of the things that we have to look into is that this episode did not have Rhaenyra. This episode didn't have Daemon. It didn't have any of Viserys's one side of the family in this whole episode, right? Because they're not here. They're all in Dragonstone without having any acknowledgement of the fact what had happened and that the king is dead, because it was kept from them. And that's because of Hightower's basically scheming this whole situation right here, where essentially they're trying to keep things into their own hands and trying to control the narrative, and doing so in this whole plotting where it's like, okay, we gotta do this in the best way possible, where Rhaenyra has no way of claiming her or claiming her throne, right? And we see just basically each and every one of these Hightowers just planning and scheming their own way, and you gotta appreciate this episode for really just going up this notch of just this cohesive storytelling, where it's like, yes, we don't have Rhaenyra, yes, we don't have Daemon, but we're seeing the whole situation in one family's perspective, and kind of how each and one of those in a more micro sense, where we're seeing kind of how they're making their own decision making, kind of just seeing their characterization, kind of seeing how their own arcs are developing, and I think that this is just an impressive episode where we just kind of seeing a lot of this, just kind of where everyone's thoughts are, in a sense, what they think of the whole situation. We're seeing Otto in one case where he was really willing to go all violent and trying to eliminate anyone who could in a sense become a challenge, whereas Alicent is just trying to do the best way possible to mitigate anything that requires bloodshed. And then not just that, but we're also seeing kind of perspective from the kids, right? So we've seen Aegon, who really doesn't want the crown. Then we have Aemond, who really does want the crown because he is a better fit, in a sense, which is really funny because you kind of get a lot of Daemon vibes from him, which I gotta say, I love how they're really kind of showing this, similarities with a lot of the Targaryens. It's just amazing. And again, that's kind of showing kind of this foreshadow what's going to happen. But you're seeing everyone's perspective. And it's not like there's a full flesh of action or anything like that. It's the dialogue, the action, just kind of interaction, just how they're talking to each other, and just in a sense where we're seeing how everyone is now playing the Game of Thrones, essentially. Where everyone is now playing the chess pieces to their advantage as much as possible, and seeing who can overcome the other. And we're seeing a lot of that kind of unfolding here in the best way possible. And I gotta say, this is such a phenomenal episode, and just showing everyone's perspective without trying to become too much, right? They want to keep this episode focused on the Hightowers, clearly, and I think that was such a great choice, a great thing to do, because then it allows us to be focused on, okay, let's look at this one family, because we are still in the Red Keep, right? And whereas Rhaenyra and Daemon, they're all in Dragonstone, and so we're kind of seeing this perspective of what's going on at the Red Keep, where the king is dead. They're now about to do the coronation for Aegon, and trying to do things in a way that trying to do things really quickly without attracting any attention to Rhaenyra and Daemon, who could at any point come in and could have just stopped this coronation from happening and would have just fulfilled Viserys' wishes. So again, this is just an amazing episode on just that. And then not just that, but we're starting to see a bit more of just everyone's thoughts, and the more of the characters who aren't essentially the biggest, but very significant in this sort of the show, which is we're seeing the two twins, right? Eric and Eric, I don't know how you pronounce it, but I think Eric, it's really hard to tell who is who, but we're seeing one of the twins are really questioning the whole situation of who should succeed the Iron Throne, right? And we're kind of seeing how the differences of just even those blue, because now we're seeing in one sense, right, the Hightowers and Rhaenyra, Daemon, they're all kind of the royalty, right? We're seeing how they're planning and scheming and just their thoughts about the whole situation. But then we're kind of seeing a bit more of those who aren't as royal, that we're kind of seeing a bit more of the commerce perspective, which we don't really get a lot of that. Even in Game of Thrones, we never really got a sense of just how just the normal people, the people who were just living their lives, trying to do their jobs, trying to do their duty. We never really got a sense of just how they feel about the whole situation regarding the kings, the queens, basically the whole royalty aspects of it, right? And I think this is the first time we're kind of seeing, or I mean, maybe not the first time, but in one sense with the royals, right? Everybody who's trying to compete against the Iron Throne or trying to get the Iron Throne, there's a partiality, right? There's a bias, there's clear, allegiance, there's clear scheming. They know what they want, right? But this is a sense where when we're looking at these twins, we're seeing where they're not involved, they're not related to them in any way possible. They're just people who are, working in some way or some form. Yes, they are part of the Kingsguard in a sense, but still, like, they're a bit like, we're seeing where this impartiality, where they're watching everybody and what everyone does, and they're making their own decision of what they think is going on. And we're seeing how, yeah, Aegon, one of them is like, Aegon is literally a dickhead who, or Aegon, I shouldn't say that, but Aegon is clearly not fit to be a king, and therefore, perhaps maybe he's not right for it. Maybe we should, have Rhaenyra be the queen that, everyone had sworn, or that King Viserys had, confirmed as his successor, whereas the other one, it's like, yeah, no, we've been told to do something and we're gonna do that, just that. So and we're gonna see again, like, the fact that we're gonna start seeing a lot of the families kind of feuding, not just in the Targaryens but in other sense, where we're seeing even the twin brothers are gonna be divided. I mean, we're really seeing the Greens versus the Blacks becoming a big thing, right? And let's quickly talk about Rhaenys, right? I mean, this is a mother who has every right to hate Rhaenyra and Daemon, right? Lena is dead. Lenore is dead, who probably, Rhaenyra may have schemed, may have, ordered to have him killed, right? She has every reason to not side with the Blacks, right? And here she is, she still keeps her promise to the Blacks. I mean, of course, that could be her political way of doing things, right? But I love how committed she is of not swearing to the Greens. And again, just that final, and we'll go into the coronation scene in a second, but you just gotta give her props for being a lot more smart and clever in terms of what she's doing, what she's deciding for her and her family. And despite the things that have happened, right, we're clearly seeing that, well, she's not going to be for the Greens. She's going to be for the Blacks, right? And that is just, I mean, you got to give her props just for the way that Rhaenys, who has, yeah, she should have been someone who should have been in the throne, right? Because technically speaking, by bloodline, because she was Jacaerys' only daughter, she should have been the one on Iron Throne, right? But even with what Alicent told her, saying, well, you should have been the one queen, she should have been the queen that should have been up there, right? Well, here's the thing. When she made that comment, all I was thinking was, well, if you think that she should have been the queen, then Viserys, who is literally the king, was the king. His first child was Rhaenyra. Therefore, in a sense, she should have been the next person in throne. So you can see how there's like a lot of hypocrisy, kind of just this like double standards, and it's just like, okay, but if you're saying that to her, then shouldn't you really think that Rhaenyra should be up in the Iron Throne? So I mean, I wonder if that's what made her argument, but I don't know. But the fact that she decided to be with the Blacks is just so interesting, right? That was just something that really caught my attention. And then obviously, let's talk about the coronation scene. I mean, I got a lot of chills watching that. I think this is like the first time we've kind of seen official sort of, aside from Sansa's, I guess. But this is like the one time we're kind of seeing a bit more of a full version of a coronation for a king, right? That we've never seen before. And we've seen Tommen, we've seen Joffrey, but I think this is like the one. I think this is the first time we kind of see a bit more of a full version of just how they operate, right? And just seeing kind of how, Aegon just got this boost of power, which I believe could be I feel like that could be a sign of things, of what's going to happen. Like, because a couple of minutes ago we saw like he didn't want to be the king, right? He literally didn't want it. He had no desire for it. And then all of a sudden we're kind of just seeing this different side of Aegon. The moment that he becomes crowned, the moment that he sees the cheering, all of a sudden you kind of see this whole boost of energy, this confidence that we've never seen coming from him, which gives me the impression that this is going to be kind of a different side of Aegon we're probably going to see in the future seasons, that he might not be this coward that we saw before, but he's going to probably be a bit more ruthless moving forward. That's what I kind of got the signs of. And then, yeah, of course, Rhaenys, when she just, that was such a huge shock. I mean, that came out of nowhere, but oh my god, what a badass Rhaenys is. I mean, what a way to just end off that episode. I mean, just I think one of the things that you have to appreciate is that we're kind of seeing the scheming. We're kind of seeing how everyone is trying to, play the Game of Thrones. Especially in this episode, where we're kind of seeing a lot of that. People are trying to, play their own chessboards into, like, who is, like, even within the the actual family itself, we're kind of seeing the micro planning that's going on, and how everyone's just trying to, make their own visions come true. And I think that this is just the peak of, I mean, it's probably gonna even get better from here, but we're just seeing every episode where we're just seeing how each and every person is trying to, try to take advantage of a situation and try to make their own plotting of what they think would fit for their own benefit, for their own situations. And it's just like, again, it's just so amazing how we just had this one episode right here where we're just seeing everything just unfold, whether it be the stakes, whether it be kind of and the thing is, like, this is all politics, right? Like, this is how everyone is just trying to, take things into their own hands as much as possible. And we're seeing all of this happening here, where everyone's just playing the politics, everyone's playing the scheming. Seeing people trying to be clever, trying to be intelligent, trying to, overcome the other person, or try to be 2 steps forward against the other competitor, or even just the family drama that we're seeing within the Targaryen family, right? I mean, this is such an incredible episode that we just saw here, where we really, really saw the tension just really spike out of nowhere, right? And, well, not out of nowhere, but just seeing how everyone's just being quick and trying to be as quick as possible, and trying to be fast, and trying to, like, decide how they're going to run things. I mean, what a way to start setting up the Greens versus the Blacks. I mean, we saw, and again, this was coming from the perspective of the Greens, right? Like, that's how they set this up. And you gotta appreciate the writers and the showrunners for just the way that they executed this whole episode, right? They're like, we're going to focus on this episode specifically on the Greens, because, I mean, of course, with Viserys being in King's Landing, the fact that he died in King's Landing, we're going to see the Greens' perspective first, and how they're going to try and take advantage of all of this, and how they're going to plan all of this, and what we're just seeing from their perspective of, okay, the king is dead, we're about to start this war, in a sense, or for us, the war is about to start, and kind of seeing how they're thinking behind the scenes in their own way, right? Again, we didn't see the Blacks yet. The Blacks is probably going to be the finale, but just to see just how they're thinking, it's just like, wow. Like, again, we saw people that we hated, people who we did hate, we started to hate them even more, basically Otto. But then we're also seeing kind of Alicent in a way where it's like, okay, yes, we despise her, and she's still no better than her dad, but we're sympathetic to kind of her cause, and empathize, like, okay, at least she is trying to do what is best. She isn't being as, vicious as her dad. I mean, now that we're seeing kind of this more violent side that we never really seen before, like from Otto, and now we're seeing more of that. Whereas with Alicent, it's like, okay, she's trying to be a bit more of a dutiful mother who really doesn't want to escalate things, and yet she still wants to do everything that she can to fulfill what she thought was her husband's words. But yeah, no, I mean, this is just an incredible episode where we just really see the High Towers and just kind of who they are. And in a sense, we still don't like them, but, like, again, we're kind of seeing a different play view. Like, we're seeing all of just how they all are, and how they think, and how they're trying to plan things, and how they're trying to, kind of getting an understanding of who they are and what they kind of think. And again, this is just an incredible episode. And again, here's the thing with episode 9, that was bound to be an incredible episode. And I think they've definitely done it here, where they really just showed everything from the politics to the games, the plotting, just kind of the greediness of it, and just even some empathy that we see from just some of the characters that we saw. So this is, again, I think that this is a show that just keeps getting better and better. I don't know how, and I'm just super excited to see the finale itself. And I mean, we're going to see more of Rhaenyra and Daemon's perspective in the next episode, because again, I feel like, you gotta say, the fact that they went from the Greens to the Blacks, and just how that connection's from Rhaenyra's side, I mean, that is just brilliant. That is just so smart. I mean, you gotta say the techniques for just how they're executing the story is just wow. Like, that's like chef's kiss right there. So I mean, I'm super excited. I mean, I'm gonna miss this show once it does go off air, but holy cow, like, they've really done something with this. But yeah, let me know what your thoughts are. Did you enjoy the 9th episode of House of the Dragon? What are your thoughts, knowing that we kind of got a bit more of the perspective from Otto and Alicent and just about everybody else in the High Tower side, and kind of just how they think? Has that kind of changed your perspective about anybody, especially with Alicent? I feel like that kind of made me feel a bit more empathetic for her, in a sense where like she's doing everything she can to, like, mitigate the tension, the escalation, everything. What are your thoughts about just the overall execution of this episode, the technical aspects of it, and how do you think about some of the other players that we've seen kind of here, like, who haven't really risen to the occasion just as yet, but we're seeing kind of like the big players, and not just that, but kind of what are your thoughts about just everything that has happened overall, especially with just this bombshell and just kind of the scheming of everything, right? Let me know in the comments down below, and make sure to like and subscribe.